Now we're going to learn two of the Tosfos on the sugya. Before doing that, let's review all the opinions of the Amoraim that are relevant to our sugya. We started off with Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, who discussed the case of two conflicting testimonies by two pairs of witnesses, and the question is, could they testify in a separate case, in an Eid Zomem? Rav Huna says that they can because they maintain their cheskas kashrus, and Rav Chisda says that they cannot testify to change the status quo of money, for example, but you need two witnesses to force someone to pay money, so we follow the cheskas mamon, the status quo, rather than rely on these questionable witnesses. And then we have the question of oso edus, of two conflicting testimonies of two pairs of witnesses, and we want to accept part of their testimony in that same case. So Rav Nachman says within the testimony we cancel out the two sets of witnesses about the chazaka and give the land to the one who had testimony that his father owned the land and he inherited it. And Rava says that once you reject part of the testimony, the entire testimony is rejected, which is called in other places Eid Shabbat l'miksasa bat l'kula. And the third issue is the Eid Zomem case, where we believe the second set of witnesses over the first, and Rava says that the original witnesses are invalid from now on, now that we've established them as Eid Zomem, the pasul from now on, and Abaye says we extend their invalidation retroactively from the time of the testimony. Now we have the Tosfos, Ein lecha bo ela chidusho. This is the first reason given for Rava's opinion that we only invalidate from now on, because the whole invalidation is a chiddush, because intuitively we shouldn't have believed the second over the first necessarily, and therefore the invalidation of the first set that results is an anomaly, in that it's not consistent with the general logic or the general system of halacha, and therefore we minimize the chiddush and only have it go into effect from now on. Tosfos points out, which is clear. Mashma da chiddush havi mimash ani posel savishonim. It seems like the chiddush is the invalidation of the first pair of witnesses, Reuven and Shimon. For example, Reuven and Shimon testify in a case. Levi and Yehuda come and say that Reuven and Shimon are lying by definition because they did not see what they claimed to have seen. They were with us in a different place at that time. So Levi and Yehuda are mazim Reuven and Shimon. Reuven and Shimon become zomim. So the invalidation of Reuven and Shimon only goes into effect going forward. Tema, but this doesn't make sense. This is astonishing. The Hassam, because over there in Bava Basra Ka'amar, the Gemara suggests Lema Rava d'Amar Reb Chisda. The Gemara suggests an equation between Rava and Reb Chisda. The Amar, who says Bahadi Sadi Shakri Lamali Umifsale Shteha Edus Afilu Behuchashu Ba'alma, which means that we invalidate both sets of witnesses, even in the case of Hachasha, which is not Hazama. The Machash Adade, that they conflict. One says one owned the land, one says the other owned the land. Tarvayu Psule. They're both puzzle. V'im Kain, my chidushu. How can it be a chiddush according to Rava? Gabe Hazama, in the case of Hazama, Ipaslinon Edim Harishonim. If we're going to invalidate the first witnesses. Here the Gemara says Lema Rava D'Amar Kirab Chisda. The Gemara suggested that Rava is the same view as Reb Chisda. That why does Rava say Edus Mucheshes and reject the entire testimony? Because he holds like Reb Chisda, it's the same concept as Reb Chisda. If Rava, so Tosfos asks if Rava, and the Gemara ultimately rejects that and says that Rava could really follow Rav Huna also, and say that it's different in the same testimony. But at that point that the Gemara said that Rava might hold like Reb Chisda, so in that case, how can Rava here be explained based on Chiddush? The invalidation of the first set of witnesses would be true in any case of Hachasha, not only Hazama. So there is no Chiddush according to Rava. According to Rav Huna, there's a Chiddush because he thinks that in general they're all kosher. so the invalidation would be a chiddush. But according to Reb Chisda, Eid Zomem is completely consistent with all the halachos outside of Eid Zomem, and therefore is not a chiddush. So Tosfot answers v'yesh lomar. The lamai de boy lemeimar hasa meikara de Rav Svir le Reb Chisda hainu lelishna de pseida lekuchos. When the Gemara suggested that Rava holds like Reb Chisda, that at that point in the Gemara would have to go with pseida lekuchos, the alternative reason for Rava. But Rava would not be explained based on chiddush according to that possibility, and according to the conclusion that Rava could look at Huna, so then Rava could be explained based on chiddush. That's one answer. V'yesh mefarshim. Another answer that Tosfos offers: Dahadaka amar hacha chiddush. That which the Gemara here says chiddush, lav apsula dekamai kai, is not referring to the initial invalidation, like Tosfos thought was so simple and clear at the beginning. Ella ahachshered basroi. The chiddush of Eid Zomem is that the second set is puzzle, because according to Reb Chisda, all four are puzzle. So the chiddush could be explained even according to Reb Chisda, that the chiddush is that the second two Eidim are kasher. Kolomar hayolanu leposlan kol shtei kitos. We should have invalidated all of them. They came on to Ika Chidush, and since there is a Chidush in general within the laws of Eid Zomem, Lo Yalfina, and therefore we cannot learn Af Lagabe Absul Leposlan Klal Harishonim Mafreya. We therefore limit the invalidation of the first set of witnesses, because even though that invalidation is not a Chidush, but since there is a Chidush in Eid Zomem, we see that Eid Zomem works differently than everything else, and therefore we limit all the laws of Eid Zomem, even those which are not directly related to the Chiddush. V'chi haygavna amrina perakid anashia. We have a similar thing in Maseches Chulin. The lo yalfinan ta'am ki'ikar mibasa b'chalav, that we try to say ta'am ki'ikar is the principle that the taste of something not kosher, without the actual non-kosher, something that's absorbed the taste of non-kosher, is also aser. The Gemara suggests that the source is basar b'chalav, is meat and milk, but they say that's rejected as a source mishum te'ika bo chiddush be'hetero. Since there's a chiddush in the leniency side of basar b'chalav, we therefore cannot extend its chumrah to other cases. And what is that chiddush? If it's soaked in milk all day, it's mutter. But when it's cooked for even a moment, it's aser. So the leniency that it's mutter if it's so absorbed, even though it's not cooked, makes it an anomaly, and we can't learn anything from it, even something which is related to the unrelated to the chiddush of basar b'chalav. And the same thing could be true here. I'm not sure why Tosfos doesn't offer another possibility to answer this question, which is to say that the chiddush of Eid Zomem, according to Reb Chisda, is that even though Reb Chisda invalidates all Eidei Hakasha, all conflicted testimonies, that's not because he definitively thinks that they're lying. It's only because when they testify to change the status quo, we'll maintain that status quo, not change it misafek. But the chiddush of Eid Zomem is that they're puzzle as a certainty, not just in case because of cheskas mamon. That absolutely puzzle. We absolutely invalidate the first and validate the second. And Reb Chisda's law of v'hadis sadi shakri lamali would be limited, that in a case when they are testifying lahachzik, or they're testifying in another matter, they would be effective. I'm not sure why Tosfot doesn't give that answer, unless he disagrees with these reasons which were given earlier by the Rashbam. But just for example, let's say you have two witnesses who come to say that someone owes money, and then these two Eidei Hakasha come to conflict them. So presumably they would be effective to create a tie. Whereas if they were Eidim Zomemim, they are pasul vada and they're completely disregarded, and the other witnesses would be completely effective. There's one more Tosfos on the sugya that I want to look at. Da'ashidu beitrei b'chad v'trei b'chad. Kasher l'Rebbeinu Tam, Tosfos asks a question. Chada d'mai ka'amar da'ashidu beitrei b'chad v'trei b'chad. What is this that if you have that this is a second nafkamina, that if it's 2-on-1 plus 2-on-1, two witnesses being tested. In other words, Levi and Yehuda saying that Reuven is an Eid Zomem, and Yisachar and Zvulun coming to say that Shimon was an Eid Zomem, and therefore there's no chiddush because it's 4 against 2. Hatrei kimeya. We know the principle of Eidim is that once you have 2 kosher witnesses, they're equal to 100 witnesses. That's the law of Eidim. So first of all, why is this a nafkamina? Why is this a nafkamina? It's still a chiddush in this case because it should have been considered a tie. Furthermore, why does it say that they were invalidated as thieves? This is the second nafkamina. This is not a nafkamina, which is similar to the issue that they were debating. The pligi b'hazama, the debating hazama, and they're saying that it's an nafkamina because depending on what Rava's reason for hazama will affect whether you extend Rava's principle to gazlanusa. Lo shayach ika beinayu ela me'ein pluksayu, but the nafkamina should have been on the issue that they're discussing, which is hazama. V'od, and furthermore, third question, Eidim Zomem mibayale le'el meimar. We should have said Eidim Zomemim. Kaven de Amr Trei Bechad v'Trei Bechad. Since we're talking about 2-on-1 plus 2-on-1, there's at least 2 Zomemim altogether. Ve'may nakat Eid Zomem. Why does the whole sugya Eid Zomem present itself in the singular? Ikana lahaba hu nifsal, lemafreya hu nifsal. Why is it in the singular if the case is 2? But near the time, therefore, Tosfos interprets. Therefore, Tosfos interprets the Garsinan Da'ashidu Trei B'chad V'sulo. The girsa should be that 2 testified against 1, and that's it. Shalohu Zom Ki Im Ha'echad. Only one of the 2 became an Eid Zomem, and his co-witness didn't say anything about seeing the other. In other words, Reuven became an Eid Zomem. Shimon testified with Reuven, but Shimon did not testify that Reuven saw the case. So Levi and Yehuda come to attack Reuven. Shimon is neutral on the issue of whether Reuven is a kosher witness. This is 2-on-1. V'su shalo huzam ki im ha'achad. Only one became an Eid Zomem. V'hashta nicha telahachi naka le'el Eid Zomem lashon yachid. That's why it's in the singular. V'nicha nami had mahani trei amazimim tvei me'ahu chad. And that's also why the 2 would beat the 1. V'lav chiddush, it's not a chiddush because it's 2 versus 1, and the other witness is not standing. Shimon is not standing by Reuven's side. V'garsina nami, and we also have to amend the girsa to paslei begazlanusa. That it's not paslinan, but it's paslei begazlanusa. Pirush, which should be understood, to echad nifsal begazlanusa. One was invalidated by saying that he stole. V'asheni huzam, and the other one is found to be an Eid Zomem. V'hashta have me'ein pluksayu ksas. And now it's more like part of the case that they were debating because it is a case of Eid Zomem. We're just trying to explain why the second witness is not relevant to the case.